The Nyxi Joypad controllers featured in today's review were provided courtesy of Nyxi. Even though the Switch is becoming one of my favorite portable systems of all time, there is no denying that the out-of-the-box experience with the Joy-Cons is pretty crap. There is no ergonomic design to them whatsoever, making prolonged play a chore. The smaller buttons and analog sticks are also a widely criticized problem. Thankfully, options exist to improve the experience. You can pick up a grip to add ergonomics if you don't mind the Joy-Cons, or you can pick up a SplitPad type replacement controller that addresses both problems at once. Today I'm going to show you one such option from Nyxi, the Joypad. Nyxi's controller comes in an odd box with the standard black edition of the Joypad on the front. As you can see, there is no real notation anywhere as to what the controller is called, and just that it is compatible with the Switch. The controller's RGB effects are indicated, and along the side is a label of what color controllers are in the packaging, if it was filled out, and some key features. The back has a contents list and product specifications, as well as a poorly worded recommendation. Inside the box you'll find your joypads, frame, USB-C charging cable, and a user's manual. Terrible box aside, the Joypad makes a good first impression with its full-size controls and more ergonomic grip. The sturdy clear shell of this version also brings me a sense of nostalgia for clear electronics of the late 90s. Thumbsticks and buttons are more properly offset, giving better access to everything during play. The buttons are a bit on the squishy side, but nothing egregiously deal-breaking. Thumbsticks are now full size, which immediately makes the thought of playing shooters and most platformers far more appealing. Personally, it is the thumbsticks that draw my attention to this type of device in the first place. The included RGB lighting is focused around the thumbsticks, and the light pipe acts as an anti-friction ring, giving the stick smoother rotation. A number of color patterns are available to choose from, or can be disabled entirely. The lighting effects come across nicely enough and should be appealing for RGB fans. Shoulder buttons come in larger as well and have a decent feel to them. I'm not the biggest fan of having flap-like triggers, but they work out okay. Another selling point for some will be the inclusion of a real D-pad over the Joy-Con's traditional split button design. Like the face buttons, it is a bit squishy, but it can be rolled, which is a must for my personal playstyle. While every button you would expect to find on a Joy-Con alternative is present, the Joypad includes a few extra buttons on the back to control turbo functionality, RGB lighting, and mapping one of the pad's buttons to the rear button. The placement of the rear button works well, and its larger size should make it easily accessible to users of any hand size. An interesting addition to the Joypad is a USB-C charging port on the underside of each pad. Personally, I would have preferred the included frame to have the charging port and just attach each pad to it when not being charged by the Switch itself. Each pad slides into the Switch securely, but due to the size difference, there is a pretty sizable overhang on the back of the system. The same thing also happens with the frame, and I'm not a huge fan of the way it looks or feels. But I do understand it is to maintain system dockability without having to disconnect the pads. Moving into gameplay, the Joypad continues to delight. Every game in the Switch library should be perfectly playable with support for both traditional and motion controls. Rumble is also included, to my extreme delight. Rumble is a feature missing from some competing options, so having it here, and a decent implementation at that, is a huge plus. I also love that you can tune the intensity of the motors on the pads with a simple button combo. The only feature missing from the Joypad is the NFC reader, so sadly no amiibo support for those that actually do things with amiibo. Diving into my library of Switch titles, the advantages of the Joypad over Joy-Cons becomes obvious. The bigger buttons make them easier to press and easier to avoid hitting multiple by mistake. I have yet to experience any dropped inputs or misreads, and everything responds promptly. The better grip makes extended playing less irritating on the wrists. The larger sticks provide a level of precision the Joy-Cons could only ever dream of. Fine aiming in Apex for Switch has never been the greatest, but having the extra bit of precision, especially in handheld mode, is a huge plus. Sure, you could also use motion aiming here, but I'm just not a fan of it. With the inclusion of mappable back paddles, you get the little bit of extra customization to make your gameplay experience your own. Unfortunately, there are some limitations here, as each pad can only map a button for its individual side. Typically, I like to map D-pad actions to these paddles for easier access in battle. You could use the system-level remapping feature to sort of get around this limitation, but results might vary. For fighting games, the traditional D-pad is also a night and day difference. Pulling off combos in Street Fighter is so much easier now. I will also forever be a D-pad user in Tony Hawk, so I'm enjoying having the traditional feel here. While handheld play will always be my main use for this type of pad, I am enjoying having the option to use them in the frame as a more traditional Pro Controller alternative. You can even do single pad controls for games that support it thanks to Side L and R still being included. though the improved grip for traditional play and the D-pad make this an odd way to use the pads. While in the end I am loving the Joypad, it gives a bad first impression with its Chinese knockoff looking box. I also would have loved a more flush edge from the pads to the switch or frame. Having the frame host the USB-C charging port for the pads also seems like it would make more sense over each one having an individual plug. I have also noticed that each thumbstick hits max range about 90% of the way to the edge of the stick's physical range. Even calibrating the sticks in software didn't make a difference here. Not a huge problem thanks to it being larger and giving you more fine control in the first place, but certainly an oddity. While I will forever criticize the box they came in, the Joypad has been a great addition to my Switch OLED setup. For anyone looking to ditch their Joy-Cons for a more comfortable alternative in handheld mode, a SplitPad type controller is certainly a fantastic option, and Nyxi's offering is a great choice. With support for practically the entire Switch library, bigger controls, motion controls, and rumble, the Joypad is ready to play. The improved ergonomics can also not be understated in importance for comfort during extended play. Check them out today. And that is the Nyxi Joypad. Despite its box, not a bad SplitPad choice. Performance is solid, and the addition of rumble compared to other options will always be a favorite of mine. There are some notable oddities with the controller, and just to clarify, the USB ports on the bottom of each pad is to update the controller with future firmwares, though I still feel having a single way of doing that would have been a lot nicer, but hey, do what you gotta. But shout out again to Nyxi for sending this my way to showcase for all of you, and shout out to each and every one of you for making it to the end of this review. Really appreciate each and every one of you for spending even a minute at a time on the channel. Really helps us keep it growing and bringing more content like this to all of you. But I do have a couple of huge favors to ask you all here at the end. If you haven't done so already, hit that like, dislike button depending on how much you like today's review, and the sub button and notification bell so you can see when new content goes live on the channel. Again, helps us keep the place going and growing and bringing this content to you. For anyone interested in further helping support the channel, you can also check out that join button here on YouTube or the Patreon link in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. A little goes a long way to keep this place up and running. That again lets us bring this content to you. Big shout out to all of our current champions. Thank you so much for being amazing and believing in what we do and helping us keep it going. But until next time, my wonderful internet peeps, you all stay awesome, keep on gaming, and we'll see you back next video.